For this video, I'm going to take you on a tour of the Fun Station Family Fun Center located in Tallahassee, Florida. I really love video games, and I'll be the first one to admit it, I'm not particularly skilled at playing them, but there's just something about them that's magic to me. Every time I go to an arcade, I feel like I'm a kid again, back in 1982 when I experienced my very first Chuck E. Cheese. There's just something about the atmosphere of an arcade to me. It reminds me of that movie Tron Legacy, where, they fire up the jukebox and go back to Flynn's arcade, and it's like being transported back in time. So the arcade I'm looking at today is the Fun Station, and I really wasn't expecting the sheer size of this place. It's a lot bigger than I would have expected. It's also in a really peculiar location. It's kind of off on a side street behind all the main attractions. If you haven't been to Tallahassee before, there's a couple main streets that run through the town. Tennessee, Monroe, those type of streets. Well, this isn't on any of those. This is kind of buried on this really weird, small, meandering road. And this arcade is kind of just stuck behind a couple shopping centers. It's a really peculiar location. But I would definitely call this place kind of a hidden gem because it's a lot larger than I expected. I mean, they've got probably about 100 arcade games here. They've got a laser tag, a dodgeball, they've got go-karts, batting cages, mini golf. I mean, there's a lot to do here. And I was here obviously in a weekday, so it was pretty slow and off hours, but I'm sure this place does pretty well on the weekends if people can actually find it. As for the arcade machines themselves, there's a lot of games of chance here. A lot of spin the wheel, a lot of skee ball, a lot of claw machines. Racing games is kind of a mixed bag. They had Daytona, they had some motor VR game that I've never seen before. It was a motorcycle game. They had a really fun sit-down Fast and Furious racing game. There was, the Halo game. They had Tomb Raider shooting game. Lots of cool assortments of just modern stuff. The only thing that I noticed that they kind of lacked is they didn't really have a lot of the classics. I didn't see any Defenders or Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, that kind of stuff. So this thing really is thin on classic games. All the modern stand-up and sit-down machines are here, though. They do have that modern-day Space Invaders that uses the big projection screen, so they've got at least that. So that's probably about as close as you can get to playing one of the classics. They were using the electronic cards for operating the machines. I think they use the RFID where you scan it on the machine. So a lot of these arcades are doing away with the old coin system where you would basically put in a $20 bill and get a bunch of quarters. They're still doing that old school stuff up in the Northeast, but for most of the arcades down here in Florida, they're all using the electronic card system. So what's my bottom line for the Fun Station? I think this is a pretty decent arcade. The selection is solid. It could be better, especially if they had more classics. They had a decent amount of fighting games. I mean, I saw Injustice, but I didn't see Mortal Kombat and I didn't see Street Fighter, so that's a little hit and miss even on the fighting stuff. They had closed the go-kart track and the mini golf for inclement weather, so I can't really judge how good those particular experiences are, but they look pretty average. I mean, nothing to call home about, but the prices seem reasonable, and let's face it, this is Tallahassee, not Orlando. This is pretty much the only go-kart track and arcade in the entire town, so they're doing a pretty good job. Well, those are all my thoughts on this particular arcade, so I'm just going to play music to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching this episode of The Adventure Schmuck. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See everyone next week.